"Name's Jack Thornton," he said, pulling off his gloves. "I own the Double T Ranch about 20 miles north of here. Been in town on business and was heading home. When I saw you through the window," he noticed her medical bag and the way she was dressed. Her clothes were quality but worn, and she had the bearing of an educated woman despite her obvious poverty. "Are you a doctor, miss?" he asked gently. "Knee nurse," Libby managed to say through chattering teeth. "Elizabeth Montgomery from Philadelphia." Jack's eyes widened. A trained nurse was rarer than gold in Wyoming territory. Most towns were lucky to have a barber who could pull teeth and set bones. "Miss Montgomery, you're going to freeze to death if you stay here much longer," he said, his voice filled with concern. "The storm's getting worse and this station isn't heated. Please let me take you somewhere warm." Libby looked at him with a mixture of hope and weariness. She'd learned not to trust men too easily, but she was desperate, and something about this Jack Thornton seemed different from the men she'd known back east. There was a gentleness in his manner despite his obvious strength. I don't have money for a hotel," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "That's not your concern right now," Jack said firmly. "Getting you warm and fed is what matters. We can sort out the rest later." He shrugged out of his heavy coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. The warmth of it, still carrying his body heat, made her gasp with relief. The coat smelled of leather, horses, and something else, perhaps pine soap. "Can you walk?" he asked. Libby tried to stand, but her legs were too stiff from the cold. Without hesitation, Jack scooped her up in his arms, her medical bag included. She was light as a feather, he thought, and trembling like a leaf in a windstorm. "The hotel's just across the street," he said, carrying her toward the door. "We'll get you warmed up and fed, and then you can tell me what brings a trained nurse to Wyoming territory in the middle of winter." As they stepped out into the storm, Libby found herself pressed against Jack's chest, his strong arms holding her securely. For the first time in months, she felt safe. She didn't know this man, didn't know his intentions, but somehow she trusted him. Maybe it was the desperate situation, or maybe it was something in his eyes, a kindness she hadn't seen in far too long. Before we roll back time, tell us where you're tuning in from and hit subscribe for more Wild West tales. The Cattleman's Hotel was the finest establishment in Cheyenne, and when Jack Thornton walked through the front door carrying a half-frozen woman, every head in the lobby turned. The desk clerk, a thin man named Perkins, hurried over with obvious concern. "Mr. Thornton, sir, what happened?" "Found this lady at the train station near frozen to death," Jack said, still holding Libby in his arms. "I need your best room and send up hot food, coffee, and plenty of blankets. Also get Doc Williams if he's still in town." "Right away, sir," Perkins said, grabbing a key from the board. "Room 12, second floor. Shall I help carry her?" "I've got her," Jack replied, heading for the stairs. Libby was aware of the stares and whispers as Jack carried her through the hotel, but she was too cold and exhausted to care about her reputation. The warmth of the building was making her fingers and toes tingle painfully, as feeling returned to them.
Jack carried her into a spacious room with a large bed, a fireplace, and fine furniture. He set her gently on a chair by the fire and immediately began building up the flames. "The hotel will send up some ladies' clothes," he said, not looking at her as he worked with the fire. "Yours are damp from the snow. We need to get you warm and dry." A knock at the door announced the arrival of hot coffee, soup, and blankets. Jack tipped the boy generously and sent him away, then poured Libby a cup of coffee with hands that were surprisingly gentle for their size. "Drink this slowly," he said, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "Too much heat too fast can be dangerous." Libby sipped the coffee gratefully, feeling warmth spread through her chest. "You seem to know something about medicine yourself," she observed, her voice growing stronger. Jack smiled. "You learn a few things running a ranch. Men get hurt, animals get sick, and the nearest doctor might be 100 miles away." He pulled up another chair and sat across from her. "But I'm no trained nurse. What brought you west, Miss Montgomery? If you don't mind my asking." Libby studied his face in the firelight. He had honest eyes, she decided, and after what he'd done for her tonight, he deserved some explanation. "I worked in a hospital in Philadelphia," she said carefully. "There was trouble. A doctor who wouldn't take no for an answer. When I defended myself, I was dismissed. No hospital back east would hire me after that." Jack's jaw tightened and she saw anger flash in his eyes. "A man forced himself on you." "He tried to," Libby said. "I broke his nose with a bedpan." Despite the serious nature of the conversation, Jack's mouth twitched with the hint of a smile. Good for you, I hope it hurt. It did, Libby said. And for the first time in months, she almost smiled too. But it cost me my career. I thought maybe in the West, where doctors are scarce, my past wouldn't matter so much. It doesn't, Jack said firmly. Out here, we judge people by what they do, not by the lies told about them back east. A trained nurse is worth her weight in gold in this territory. Another knock interrupted them, and a hotel maid entered with an armload of women's clothing. Begging your pardon, sir, but these are the finest we have. Mrs. Patterson and roommate donated them, she said. Any woman caught in this storm deserves all the help we can give. Thank Mrs. Patterson for her kindness, Jack said, standing. I'll wait downstairs while Miss Montgomery changes. Mr. Thornton, Libby called as he reached the door. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. Jack paused, his hand on the doorknob. Maybe because I know what it's like to be alone in the world, he said quietly. And maybe because I've been praying for someone like you to come along. Someone like me, a healer. He said, my ranch hands get hurt regular and I've lost good men because there was no one to tend them properly. But more than that, he turned to face her fully. I've been looking for someone special, someone with strength and courage, someone who'd break a man's nose rather than let him take. With that, he left the room, closing the door gently behind him. Libby sat by the fire staring at the closed door. She'd expected many things when she came west, but she'd never expected to meet a man like Jackson Thornton, rich enough to own his own ranch, kind enough to help a stranger, and respectful enough to leave her alone to change clothes without being asked. She looked at the clothes the maid had brought, a simple but well-made dress of blue wool, undergarments, stockings, and even a pair of boots that looked like they might fit. As she changed out of her damp, travel-stained clothes, she couldn't help but wonder what tomorrow would bring. For the first time since leaving Philadelphia, she felt a spark of hope. Libby woke to sunlight streaming through the hotel window and the distant sound of voices from the street below. The storm had passed, leaving the world covered in pristine white snow. She'd slept better than she had in weeks, warm and safe for the first time since leaving Philadelphia. A soft knock at the door made her sit up. Miss Montgomery, it's Jack Thornton. Just a moment, she called, quickly braiding her long brown hair and smoothing the borrowed dress. When she opened the door, she found Jack standing in the hallway with a breakfast tray. Morning, he said with a smile that made her heart skip. Thought you might be hungry. How are you feeling? Much better, thank you, she said, stepping aside to let him enter. Mr. Thornton, I don't know how to repay your kindness, Jack, he corrected, setting the tray on the small table by the window. And you don't owe me anything, though I was hoping we might talk about your plans. They sat across from each other as Libby ate the hearty breakfast of eggs, bacon, biscuits, and jam. The food was delicious, and she realized how long it had been since she'd had a proper meal. I don't have many plans, she admitted. I was hoping to find work in one of the mining camps, but I'm not sure how to get there or even which camps might need a nurse. Jack leaned back in his chair studying her. Mining camps are rough places for a woman alone. Dangerous, too. Most of those men haven't seen a decent woman in months, and they don't always remember their manners. I can take care of myself, Libby said with quiet determination. I'm sure you can, Jack agreed. But there might be another option. My ranch covers 50,000 acres, and I employ about 60 men year-round. During roundup and branding season, that number goes up to nearly 100. These men work hard and get hurt regular. Broken bones, cuts, burns, snake bites, you name it.